How many of you have ever looked up stuff in the RIPE database? So I can't really see, but a lot of you. And how many of you work for companies with resources that are probably represented in the RIPE database? This is really for you. The AS set is part of what we have in the RIPE database. So just quickly going through what actually is an AS set. In BGP, we have this AS set that will show up in brackets in your router. If you've ever seen it, then you're probably older than I am. This is now deprecated, so it's not that kind of AS set we are talking about. In the IRR databases, and for the record, I'm going to talk a lot about IRR databases, the Internet Routing Registry databases. Whenever I say that, if you're not sure what I mean, just think of the RIPE database. We're in Europe now, so we will probably use the RIPE database, but over the world there are between 20 or 30 different IRR databases. But this is an AS set in the RIPE database. It lists member AS sets, and ultimately it then lists AS numbers. So we practically have a set of AS numbers. And this is useful for routing, to create filters for what you allow or do not allow in BGP towards your peers, towards your upstreams, and towards your downstreams, etc. So what I'm here today to talk to you about is what you put in your AS set that you would have in the RIPE database. And there are three kind of use cases for AS sets. The first and most important is to document who are your customers. And this is really to show the internet, this is my network, my AS number, and the customers behind it. So what can you expect that I will be announcing to the internet? This is really, really key component and the most common use case. But then there are some complexities to this. There are also some people who like to document, well, who am I peering with? These are my peers. I don't really know why that is useful. And then there are a lot of IXPs who will show, well, these are all the members of the IXP. And I suppose you could use that to filter your connections to the route server. So basically, the first and foremost principle is to document your customers, and this is to show your upstream provider, who will then in turn create filters on your your connection upstream to your tier 1. This is an example from training resources that Manners is publishing, showing the best recommended policies for how to do filtering based on AS sets. And then we have the two other options, documenting your peers and documenting your IXP members. And I am here to talk to you today about whether those two are actually harmful for the routing security that we have on the internet. I'm going to give you 3 tips for how you can improve your routing security by maintaining your AS set and how you work with it. First and foremost, you should understand the purpose of your AS set. Are you documenting your customers, your peers? Are you an IXP? What type of use case do you fall into? So I'll show you an example on what are some problems that you might run into when doing this. This is an example from the Serbian Open Exchange, which would then quite clearly fall into category number 3, the third, the IXP members documenting. And what you see here is that they have included so many different members in their AS set that actually the total size of it is almost 90,000 ASNs and more than 2 million IPv4 prefixes, so far more than is even routed on the internet. So when you think about this AS set being used to generate filters on routers, you should think about, well, first of all, the sheer length of the configuration that will be pushed into your router when trying to generate an IP prefix filter or an ASN filter based on this will be quite significant. Also, if you're trying to use this for an added security layer in BGP routing, then somehow you are accepting pretty much the whole internet, and then you could question, is that really useful filtering at all? So I have an example here showing how much can be included, and looking at just one example, I found the local company from Lithuania, Melbicom. I don't know if they're here. I'm not trying to cast any shade on them. They are simply an innocent bystander in all of this very, very large, very, very large set of inclusions. But listing the different types of AS sets, then the path from this AS set, AS socks, they would then include AS data IX, then another, and this is the full path of just one example, one ASN that ends up in all of this. And I tried to categorize the different types of AS sets in this. You see, first you have some IXP members. They include ISPs like AS3491 and their customers, and somehow their customers include some IXPs who then include each other again. And in the middle here, we have someone trying to document all their peers. And down here near the bottom, we have the Telecom Armenia. Somehow Melbicom is routed through them as well. And it just becomes one big, at least seen from the outside, one big giant mess of inclusions upon inclusions upon inclusions. So some tips for you when you are trying to avoid all of this. If you're listing your customers, well, then don't include your IXPs because they are not your customers. If you're listing your peers, then please come and talk to me, because then I want to know why would you even be doing that? Are there ever anyone generating filters based on the AS set that you publish for that? And if you're an IXP listing your members, well, then don't list the peers of your members, and try to be honest about what you include. First of all, because no one needs to know that you have 90,000 ASNs connected to your Serbian internet exchange, because I think you don't. So for this, my rule of thumb would be, would you re-advertise this in BGP? Then include it. And if this is not something that you would re-advertise to someone else, then it doesn't belong in your AS set. So, number 2 tip for you when managing your AS set. Beware, bigger isn't better. I know you may have thought so, but not at all. Recursive references is a very, very, very powerful tool. Recursion can quite quickly run amok in any type of recursion, and with great power comes great responsibility, as we all know. And so always keep in the back of your mind, the bigger your AS set is, the less secure your network is going to be, because this is what is we are basing filters on. And if you include something that shouldn't be included in the filters, well, that's just an open invitation for someone to do something. And then I know this is annoying, and I know you hear it a lot, but clean up, and clean up regularly. If you have customers and you include them, when they leave, remove them, etc., etc. So we've seen that in many, many cases over the years. Things just become cluttered, and suddenly you don't remember, why was this even included? Was it a customer that left, or was there a different reason? So clean up regularly. And this is your small contribution to the routing security. Because the cases I'm talking about now are the cases that aren't really captured by RPKI. I know that we have all seen a million presentations on RPKI saying, well, this is going to be the way you validate routes on the internet. Well, currently RPKI only supports ROAs, route origin authorizations, which means that we are only validating the originating ASN in the route. This is what we will be using to validate the transit part, meaning that we will have filters based on all of these AS sets at each point in the hierarchy. Whenever you buy IP transit for someone, you will have filters based on these AS sets, and that is really where you need them, and this is where they are very, very crucial for your routing security. So, for example, if you have a very, very big AS set and accidentally some of your customers makes a route leak, they configure BGP wrong or something, are you filtering your customers correctly? This is also part of manners. Make sure that you filter your customers. Do you just accept what is in your customer's AS set? And if you just accept their AS set, then are you looking into the size of that AS set? Because that really determines how well you can stop your customers leaking. And if for some reason you are not filtering very much on your customers, then your customers' accidental route leak will just pipe through your own AS number, your own network, and go to your IP transit. And then all of a sudden, you are making a route leak on the internet and attracting all of this unwanted traffic to your network. And the only thing that is stopping you from doing that is this filtering based on your AS set. So if your AS set for some reason is 90,000 ASNs big, then it's 90,000 ASNs that will be accepted from your route leak. So please check and double check your customers' AS sets, how many routes are in them, before you just automatically include those in your own AS set. And I want to recommend BGP tools. You all heard from Ben on stage yesterday. It's a great tool where you can actually just look up, take your own AS set, you will get the total size, how many ASNs are included, how many IPv4 prefixes, how many IPv6 prefixes. Then you can make a determination, does this more or less match what I intend to announce to the internet? And then, crucially, you can see all your customers that you have included in your AS set. Maybe the first customer is fine, they have some customers of their own, but maybe you have some customers that somehow include something that is very, very large, and BGP Tools is so kind enough to mark that with red text that maybe you should look into this, maybe you're including too much here. Please go and have a look at your own AS sets to see what are you including, where is it coming from, where is the size build-up coming from. And again, the rule of thumb in checking your AS set, would you re-advertise this in BGP? And so a third tip for managing your AS set, this was all about your own AS set, how much you include and the size of it. The size can be really, really harmful for stopping any route leaks that might be coming out of your customers or your network. But the last tip that I have from you is checking up on who are including you, and not just before you were including someone and that determines the size of your AS set, but who's really including you. This means where are your internet resources, prefixes, and ASNs being included, and in what filters are you included? All of those is a potential BGP hijack that could affect you. I had a presentation more or less about this at DKNOG and NOG-FI and ITNetNode, where we at Telia saw someone including our AS number in their AS set, and it looked pretty much like a precursor for a BGP spoofing attack. So every time someone includes your AS set, it means they're going to announce your addresses, and are you prepared for them to do that? And so again, I want to recommend BGP tools, not to cast any shade, but I just found that Melbicom, the local company in Lithuania, they were included in the Serbian Internet Exchange, their AS sets. So I went ahead and checked up, well, how many are actually including Melbicom? And it turns out to be quite a lot. And I'm not too sure if Melbicom would actually be okay with all of these guys re-advertising what they advertise to the internet. A few of them may be okay because that's their IP transit providers, but maybe all of them, not so much. All of these inclusion is a potential BGP hijack that could happen. And are you prepared to fight that if your IP addresses are being hijacked like this? So again, the rule of thumb is, who of these would you have re-advertise your routes into the BGP routing table? So these were just my three kind of rules for you tips for how you can manage your AS set better. In summary, the rule of thumb is if it goes in BGP, then that's probably correct to include that. If it is not allowed to be re-advertised through BGP, then probably you shouldn't include it in your AS set either. I included some links here about AS sets where you can read more about how could your AS set be used to hijack some of your BGP prefixes. Why is it very, very, very bad for you if your AS set is too big? And then finally, please, if you haven't done so already, please go and have a look at Manners. Manners is really how you have good routing hygiene on the internet. And they have documented very, very down to earth and very, very easy to follow guides on how you can implement routing security for yourself. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Jarlskov, for very valuable tips.